Right, guys, how we all doing? You all right? Thank you all for popping in. We'll give it another couple of minutes before we start, because I think there's another couple of folk who are still going to jump in. They might come in late, but if not, before we kind of get anybody else in, we'll just very quickly introduce Nick. So Nick is a sleep expert. He lives in Las Vegas, and he's in the middle of an absolute heat wave at the minute. So he's getting roasted alive out in Vegas. So super awesome to get him in here. Really privileged to get him on. He's a busy guy, so it's I'm really appreciative of him coming in to do this training with you all. So excuse me. So I'm not going to butcher the introduction anymore, man. I'll let Nick kind of take over and kind of tell you about himself, what he does, and then we can maybe dive into some things. So Nick, thanks very much, man. I really appreciate you being here, dude.
Oh yeah, thank you for bringing me into your group, and thank you every single one of you for taking the time to come onto this call and improve your sleep, because it's one of the most simple things that you can do that has an absolutely enormous impact on all aspects of your life, whether you're trying to lose some weight or simply just improve your health, get jacked, or anything in between. When you sleep dialed in, all the rest of that stuff is so much easier to do. So as Ian said, my name's Nick. I do live in Las Vegas, and we do have a 120-day heat wave. That's how all of our summers work. It goes from 80 to 120 literally overnight. So if you haven't been to Las Vegas, it is fun. Just don't come in the summer unless you really want to get steamed. Anywho's, I have been a health and fitness coach for the past going on 16 years. And my main niche, as Ian pointed out, is sleep, and where all the sleep stuff came from, because in the fitness and nutrition world, there's not a lot of people who focus on sleep specifically. The reason why I focus on sleep is specifically the population that I work with. I work with a lot of what are called general population people, your average mom and pop, your average Joe, who work 9-to-5 jobs. Some of them work overnights. And every single one of the clients that I have had over the past 15 years, every single one of them has had some sort of sleep issue that was either preventing them from seeing the success they could have with weight loss, adding muscle, just improving their overall health span, and or it was a primary reason why they're having battles with their weight, battles with medical conditions, and other negative instances in their life. So that's where that came from. Without having that particular piece of the puzzle laid out and installed properly, none of these people were going to get the results that they wanted. So long story short, when we focus on getting high quality sleep, when we focus on addressing the real problems that are plaguing your sleep, and we address those problems and we solve them, and you don't ever struggle to sleep again, it's a lot easier to make those goals come to reality. And that's what Ian and I are going to teach you here today. So Ian, thank you again for bringing me into this group.
Yeah, man, awesome. Super excited, man. I know it's something, as I was just saying to Nick a minute ago, sleep's not something that I personally struggle with in terms of kind of getting to sleep and all that kind of stuff, but I know that I think the quality of my sleep could certainly be improved. So and I know through having conversations with some of you guys over the last sort of few weeks that sleep is definitely an area that we could all work on, either getting more sleep or improving the quality of the sleep that we do get. So so super stoked to actually get into this. So guys, I think if you've got any questions, Nick, I don't know how you normally like to do this, man, but do you want them to drop them in the chat to ask questions, or do you want to wait till the end and ask questions? Or
yeah, so everybody who comes to a call or training, they have a very specific question that they want answered. And for all you guys here, you have a question you want answered, do not be shy. Let's go ahead and just start posting them into the chat, and I'll go through one by one and answer every single question that you have. So you're getting the maximum amount of direct tangible value from me. And then in between that, Ian, we can go back and forth of the common issues that your clients are faced, or that maybe you're facing, common things that are going on, and we'll just shoot the shit back and forth.
Perfect. Awesome. So guys, I don't know if you all know how the wee chat function works, but down at the bottom of your screen, there's like a wee message box. If you're who's watching on computer and who's watching on phone. So if you're on your phone, you might need to swipe across. You'll need to swipe the screen across, and there'll be like a little message function. If you go in there, you'll be able to pop questions into the chat. Or if you can't figure that out, man, if you just put your hand up and wave, then you can just ask us a question. That'll be easier if you're a bit of a technophobe. So, but yeah. So, guys, before we kind of do that, has anybody got anything really pressing that they want to get answered? Anything that they kind of want to kind of kick things off with, that they want to maybe ask Nick before we kind of start diving into things? If you have, just unmute yourself and maybe ask if you're not sure how the chat function works. That's maybe the easiest way to do that thing. So
Yeah, don't be shy.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
I've got a question.
Go on then,
Awesome.
Tim.
Okay, so I can fall asleep mid-sentence. I go to sleep about 10:30 most evenings,
Mhm.
and without fail, I'm awake by 5 o'clock, if not 4:30.
Mhm.
I don't know why. Help.
Okay, so there's a couple reasons why that could happen. We're just going to assume that your sleep quality is higher rather than not for this general
Oh.
discussion.
Sorry, Nick. Just
Go
can I,
on.
yeah, I have sleep apnea as well.
Sleep apnea. Okay, are you on a CPAP machine for that, or
I'm not actually.
okay?
Would you reckon?
Would I recommend a CPAP machine? If it is a genetic form of sleep apnea, that is the most common solution for it because there's not much you can do other than literally having surgery that will solve that particular problem. A lot of people who still have their tonsils, it tends to happen. Their tonsils get bigger as they grow older. And inherently, what the procedure is that they go in and either cut them out or shave them down. It's very nasty. So
Okay.
it's really tit for tat. That's why a lot, at least here in the United States, I'm not as certain with how your medical industry over there works, but I'm going to go on the gander that it's super similar. If you go in, you get a sleep study done and you qualify to get on a CPAP machine, get on CPAP machine. I have a couple of clients who use them, and I also have a couple of friends who are in the coaching space that have genetic sleep apnea. They use it, and it's really a lifesaver for them because your options there are super, super limited in terms of addressing the apnea. And that's just if it's genetic. If it's not genetic, let's say if it's weight induced, we've experienced that a lot here in the United States. The main solution out of that is losing weight and getting your body back to a healthy body fat composition. So it doesn't look like from what I'm seeing that is you, but if you want to go ahead and just like approach your doctor about, hey, let's get a sleep study done and see what's going on with my apnea. I mean, I'm a huge fan of that.
It's definitely worse when I've had alcohol.
Yes. So sleep and alcohol do not get along, like whatsoever at all. The main reason why they don't get along so well is alcohol raises your core body temperature temporarily. And when your core body temperature is too high, it's going to really affect your ability to fall asleep and or stay asleep. And this does include if you are blackout drunk as well. You just won't remember it. So that's one of the primary reasons why. The secondary reason is it does raise your blood sugar. As your body processes the alcohol, it's going to convert it into sugar so it can use it as energy and then excrete the rest of it out of your body. When your blood sugar is too elevated, it's going to make it difficult for you to either fall asleep or stay asleep. So that's why inherently alcohol is just like a big no-no. As much as like, hey, it's a depressant, it can help you relax, it can help you unwind. In terms of sleep aids, not a good choice with that one. Does that mean like, oh, hey, I can't have like a couple of beers or a nice glass of scotch, like, on a casual like Wednesday night? Absolutely, you can. The only parameters I put around that is make sure that you have at least a 2-hour window in between the time that you finish your drink and the time you go to bed, because that's the amount of time it's going to take your body to process 1 ounce of alcohol. So that's my parameters around that. And then circling back, Tim, to your original question of why you're waking up around like 4 or 5, it could be more than likely the case if that's when your body has trained itself to wake up. Your sleep-wake cycle, and this applies to everybody, your sleep-wake cycle, or I will call it the circadian cycle interchangeably here, it can be trained to exhibit a specific sleep-wake cycle timing pattern. So if your job requires you to, let's say, wake up at 4 because you need to be there by, let's say, like 6:30 in the morning, and you do that consistently 5 days a week for years, your body automatically is going to adjust its whole clock system, because we have one inside of us, to wake up at that time, no matter what. Same will occur on the sleep side of it as well. The other big factor that would be playing into that is your chronotype. Your chronotype is a genetic predisposition to a specific sleep-wake cycle timing pattern. There are 4 known, and they range from being early people to people who stay up all night and everything in between. More than likely, It's your chronotype combined with you having a very specific sleep wake cycle timing pattern based off of your lifestyle. That's the reason why you're constantly waking up around like 4 or 5 in the morning. Even for me, since I'm an early chronotype, and my whole life I've had to wake up around 4 or 5 in the morning. I wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, just like you on clockwork, no matter if it's Monday, Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So as long as your sleep quality is high, I wouldn't care too much about the timing. Other than that, it's nothing to be concerned about.
Okay. So sort of 5.5, 6 hours sleep is sufficient for me.
5, 6 hours. 6 hours is like the absolute minimum that I generally recommend, but there's so many different enigmas when it comes to sleep. I know a couple of people who they get around like 5 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. It's super high quality and they're great. So as long as the quality is there, I wouldn't worry so much about the timing, because when your sleep quality is as high as it possibly can be, your body's going to take care of how long you will be asleep on its own.
Okay. Thanks.
So is that, and you're saying that the quality of the sleep is more important than the quantity, essentially?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because anybody can try to hit that golden standard of like 7 to 9 hours, and their sleep quality is just absolutely piss poor. You're still hitting that gold standard, but you're not getting quality sleep. So thus, when we're looking at improving overall sleep, focus on the metrics and the indicators that will lead to quality sleep, and then the quantity of those hours is going to take care of itself.
Okay. Well, just to piggyback off that then, before we dive in, or if Tim's got any more questions, like how does it work then? Because your sleep goes in cycles, is that right? Is it like 90-minute cycles your sleep goes in?
It really depends. On average, they're about 60 to 90-minute cycles, but it does depend on a lot. So yeah, we'll just say 90 minutes for the sake of the conversation.
So if you wake up then and you're kind of in the middle of a cycle where you're not, like, because obviously you go through light sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep, is that right? There's three stages. So if you wake up, if your alarm goes off and you're in like a deep sleep cycle, is that when you're then waking up and feeling burst in the morning because maybe you're waking up in the wrong cycle? Or
long story short, in that particular situation, yeah, you're literally interrupting one of the deeper sleep cycles, and it's harder for you to wake up and feel alert, feel like you actually got a great night's sleep, simply because let's say your body was in the middle of REM and your alarm went off, your ears will still hear that loud noise, and your body will force wake you up out of that cycle. Well, all the rest of the hormones that are responsible for actually bringing you out of sleep naturally haven't had a chance to adjust. Like cortisol is the main one that does that. So instead of like on a night where you actually woke up naturally and you felt like you got a great night's sleep, now you're groggy, now you're fatigued, and it's going to take your body about an extra hour or two for those cortisol levels to peak up before you actually feel like a human being, which is a problem because a lot of people in those 2 hours don't feel like a human being. Then they jack themselves up on caffeine. Your food intake behaviors are going to be altered for the rest of the day as a result of that. So it can cause a lot of problems for sure.
Yeah, interesting, man. So how do you then train your body then to, or how, like, is there a way to kind of set it so you can wake up like at the right point in those cycles? Is it better to wake up like without an alarm and just let your body do its thing, or is it going to wake up naturally anyway? Or
in a perfect world, I'm going to put this in quotes because most of us aren't going to live in this perfect world. You'll want to let your body wake up naturally. The way we live in modern society, a lot of people aren't able to wake up naturally. Some people need an alarm. I'm not a huge fan of alarms, but I also understand that a lot of people do like using them. So it's okay. When it comes to alarms, and this is what I give my clients in terms of recommendations, one alarm, that's it. Do not hit the snooze button. Do not set multiple alarms, because what's going to happen psychologically, if you know you have 3 alarms and you need to get up by the 3rd one, my girlfriend did this for years. She would sleep through those first 2 alarms, and her body had just come out of sleep and it's not going back to sleep. It's starting to go into those sleep cycles again. And then, like we just talked about, that 3rd alarm goes off and it's interrupted. And she was waking up after that 3rd alarm feeling like absolute dog shit. And at that 1st alarm, she was fine. She just didn't want to get out of bed for another 30 minutes, but her body went back into sleep mode and it interrupted the cycle. And she would literally go through the rest of her day feeling like she got no sleep at all, simply because she was sleeping through 2 alarms.
Okay.
So 1 alarm, get out of bed, be disciplined with it. and your body will adjust to whatever time you're inherently consistently going to bed and waking up.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? The being disciplined with it. When you wake up in the morning, it's cozy, and you're like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah, it's the boring work that isn't sexy. It's not fun to talk about, but everything that everybody wants here, their health, a certain amount of weight, you want abs. Well, everything that you want is going to be tied to doing the boring work. Is it always fun going to the gym? Fuck no, it's not. Is it fun going to the grocery store, prepping your food, making that menu, cooking the food, boxing the food? Is it always fun to do that? Unless you're a chef, not really. It's not always fun to do that. But the results that you get from doing the boring work are absolutely amazing. So it's beyond worth it. Yeah,
no, for sure, man. Yeah. Tim, did that answer your question, man? Is there anything more you can want to add into that, man? Or?
Yeah. So what I suppose the question was, there's no way of training myself to sort of wake up at 6 o'clock rather than 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's it. To start literally getting out of bed at 6 o'clock. And it's going to take your body a little bit of time to start picking.
So should I stay?
Go ahead.
Should I stay? So if I'm awake at 5, should I stay in bed till 6?
That is completely up to you. The jury's out on that one. You can. Here's what I would do in your particular situation. When does the sun rise in your neck of the woods, generally time-wise right now?
At the moment, we're still about 6:30, I think.
About 6:30. So, and you're waking up around like what, 4 or 5 in the morning, correct?
Yeah. They start when I wake up at the moment. Yeah.
So what I would start doing, and you can decide to stay in bed if you want, or if you want to get up and have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, whatnot. At this particular point, it's not going to matter too much. I would keep your eyes exposed to darkness until about 6 a.m. or when the sun rises. The reason why is because your eyes play a very key role in regulating the sleep-wake cycle timing. When your eyes are exposed to light, there's photoreceptors in the back of your head that are very sensitive to that. And when they get very excited, for lack of a better term, via light, it's going to tell your body to wake up. When your eyes are exposed to darkness, those receptors do not get excited. It tells your body to stay in rest mode. So by very tactically exposing yourself to bright light around 6 a.m., your body is going to begin to start understanding, oh, hey, it's 6 a.m. This is when I need to start waking up. And it's going to take a few weeks or even upwards of a month for your body to catch on. But before you know it, if you're consistent with getting sunlight or just bright light exposure at 6 a.m., your body's going to begin to adjust its sleep-wake timing cycle to start waking up at 6 rather than at 4.
Okay, good plan.
That's how you do that.
I'm going to need a mask, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very useful tool. Very useful tool.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, man. Awesome. Right, we've got a couple of questions in the chat. I've got questions about like morning and night routines and stuff. I'll get to that after. So we've got one from Dermot. So Dermot's actually one that I really wanted to kind of get to talk to you, because Dermot really is struggling with energy levels. So he's saying he gets 79 hours of sleep a night, but he always wakes up tired every single day without fail, and it's been going on for more than 20 years. He also wants to add in his energy starts to decrease as the day goes on, but he's not sure if cortisol's got anything to do with that. So yeah, Dermot, do you want to unmute just so you can ask any further questions? So
yeah, that's basically it. I wake up completely knackered, regardless whether I get 2 hours sleep, 7 hours sleep, 5 hours sleep. I generally wake up 6:30, 7 o'clock every morning. Doesn't seem to. I've tried everything over the years and without any success.
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer your second question first, since it's going to lead into your first question. Energy will naturally decrease as the day goes on, and that is directly related to your cortisol. Every single person has what is called a cortisol to melatonin cycle. And cortisol and melatonin, they operate on curves. So when you wake up, let's say about 6:37, your cortisol levels are going to peak. They're going to be at the highest naturally that they are at that particular point in time. And then they'll slowly start declining as the day goes on. And a lot of people will reach a proverbial point where the cortisol levels are low enough for them to actually start feeling fatigued. This is where that whole like mid-afternoon slump comes into play. Anywhere from about 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. is when a lot of people begin hitting that point in that particular cortisol curve to where their energy is starting to lower and they just overall feel it. So yes, cortisol controls that one. Now, when it comes to you getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but you wake up feeling tired, clearly quality isn't there. So my question for you is, are you able to fall asleep within 30 minutes? And are you able to stay asleep throughout the night? Maybe one waking, but are you able to do that?
I can fall asleep within 30 minutes. I couldn't tell you how many times I wake up during the night, but I suspect it's more than I think.
There you go. So the challenge that you're facing is night wakings, which, as Ian and I were talking about with waking up in the morning and hitting that snooze button, night wakings are going to operate the same way. You'll be in the middle of, let's say, a deeper sleep cycle. And if your body wakes you up, it's going to fragment that cycle, which is going to lead you feeling fatigued and very low energy the next day. There are a few reasons that are very common for night wakings. The first one are temperature fluctuations. This occurs with seasonal changes more often than not. So when you're going from, let's say, like a warmer month to a cooler month or a colder month to a warmer month, that happens a lot. Inherently, either your room temperature gets too warm or your own core body temperature gets too warm and it wakes up. It could be a reason why. Could be. The easiest way for you to tell is when you wake up, are you hot and sweaty? Are you cold? Are you feeling any of those types of sensations?
Probably cold, I would imagine. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So the adjustments that you can make is one, I'm not sure what type of heating or cooling system you have. You could adjust the thermostat if you so desire, or simply just change out some of the bedding that you have. Add a thicker sheet, add a thinner blanket, mix and play with it, or your own sleepwear will also make a difference with that as well. And to give you an example, an extreme one, since I live in Las Vegas and the heat is very, very extreme here. Like I was telling Ian before you guys came on yesterday, it was 116 degrees. Most people that I know who live in Vegas, when summer hits, their sleep goes to absolute shit, simply because it's too dang hot. And we all have to adjust our bedding to a very minimal level and crank down the AC to get an inkling of quality sleep. That's just simply due to our bodies are very sensitive to the environment that we're in. And when it comes to sleep, your body prefers a cooler temperature, but any deviations from what it deems comfortable, it will wake you up, whether it's too warm or too cold, and just make some clothing adjustments as a result of that. So that's the spiel on environment. The other common ones are hydration imbalances. Either you're too hydrated, you have to wake up and go to the bathroom, or you're dehydrated and you wake up feeling thirsty. Do you feel any of those sensations when you wake up as well?
No, not generally, no.
Okay, cool. So we can rule that one out. And then the final most common reason why people wake up in the middle of the night is a blood sugar imbalance. This is very popular here in the States, just simply due to how unhealthy our population is. If your blood sugar level is too high, your body will not like that in the middle of sleep. And its natural way to lower your blood sugar levels when they're too high is to wake you up and go to the bathroom. If your blood sugar levels are too low, this is not as common, but I've seen it happen. You'll have sensations waking up feeling, well, one, hungry, two, anxious, paranoid, or stressed.
Yeah.
Is that, would you say that you pop for that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're looking in the realm of a dietary question for sure. So when do you typically eat your last meal of the day? And how far along after that do you find yourself going to sleep?
Well, last meal of the day would be 8 p.m. I'm normally in bed by 9:30, asleep by 10.
Okay, and what's the composition of that meal overall?
Oh, Christ, it could be anything.
Could be anything.
Yeah, it's generally not good.
Okay, and
sorry, Ian.
it's totally okay. It's totally okay. And honestly speaking, do you think that you eat the amount of food that you need to be eating per day? Or do you find yourself like more under eating?
I definitely wouldn't be under eating.
Okay.
Probably eating too much in the evenings would be my main thing. During the day, while I'm busy, I tend not to eat too much, and then I just eat a lot when I get home.
Okay. So would you say like a vast majority of your caloric intake for the day is in the evening?
50%, I'd say, yeah.
50%? Okay.
Yeah.
That would explain the blood sugar imbalance. And that could indirectly cause the body temperature fluctuation as well. I'm not going to get into the nuances of that because it gets a little bit more sticky, but inherently that would be the big one there. So the long-term solution, and this is long-term because I'm a huge fan of being reasonable and meeting people where they're at, spreading out that 50% of your caloric intake to other parts of the day right now is not going to happen just overnight. It's going to take some time. So what I would do for you is if you can move that last meal time up even just 30 minutes, it's going to do wonders with those night wakings. Even just 30 minutes. If you can push it up even a little bit longer, like an hour, it's going to give your body more time to rebalance out its blood sugar levels. And your body likes balanced blood sugar levels when it goes to sleep.
Perfect. Brilliant. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Great stuff.
All right.
Dermot, did that help? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking notes here like crazy. Yeah.
Good man.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Good man. Awesome. Right, we've got questions galore. Woo. You seen the chat, Nick? Yeah. So there's one from Steve in there as well. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool. Sometimes I can't get to sleep because I have a song. You have a song in your head, you can't stop playing. That doesn't sound like a bad problem. Having a song in your head that you really like. That's my brain all the time. That's why I'm laughing. I feel this one to my core. Then I just get annoyed with myself. Also, just blue light. Tablets so long can have an effect on making it sleep easier. Okay, so we'll start with the song in your head. Is this like a fun song, or is it just something like you heard, or you just minding your own business and the song just likes to come in your head?
It can be any song at all, and it'll just, I don't know whether it's something subconsciously happens that you picked it up during the day and it just plays. And the more I start to think about it, to stop it, it actually happens even more. So tried things like breathing techniques, deep breathing, and trying to help it with that. But
okay,
it sort of gets to a point then where I'm getting really frustrated because I can't get to sleep.
Okay. And when this happens, are you already in bed trying to go to sleep and then the song just comes on?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really annoying. I feel that frustration. Okay. So there could be so many reasons why your brain is doing that. Are you musically inclined?
Yeah.
Okay, that could be a reason why. So my sister, she's musically inclined, and she has said that, every now and then when she tries to go to sleep, like this song that's been in her head all day just turns up the volume when she's trying to sleep. So the solution that I gave her is put on some white noise while you're trying to go to sleep. And there are so many different like devices that you can do it. You can download stuff on your phone that'll do that for you. Any type of white noise, like literally just go like online and say like white noise app or white noise songs, like on YouTube. Just play it, put a timer on it so that it stops within about like 30, 45 minutes, just so it's not on all night. And just you being able to hear something other than the song in your head is going to tell your brain to focus on that noise rather than the song in your head. And white noise has been proven to help improve sleep quality. So do that one. That will work wonders for you. Unless it's a really great song and you just want to keep listening to it, then please just do not listen to me on that one. Okay. Moving into your second question. Does blue light, it's coming from tablets, cell phones, etc., have an effect on you getting to sleep easier? Technically, yes. The reason why is the blue light specifically excites those photoreceptors in the back of your head that are responsible for controlling sleep and wake those receptors love blue light, love it. So when you get an abundance of blue light, specifically post sundown, it can interfere with that process. It can. There's a lot of other factors that go into that, mainly how close you are to the screen. This is why there's a lot of stuff out there of like, hey, like, don't bring these into your bedroom. Like, don't scroll at night, because getting that bright light when it's darker out is going to mess with that. And your own personal sensitivity to light. Like for me personally, to give you an example, I'm not very sensitive to blue light. I'm not at all. So I can get away with a lot of this stuff that is like, oh, don't do that. And I have a few clients who are very sensitive. I mean, it's very, very sensitive to blue light. Like if they watch TV, even if it's like, you guys can see my TV in the background, my couch is on the other side of the wall. It's a good 15 feet away. If they are within a 15-foot radius of a TV past sundown, it's going to mess with their sleep. So you'll have to take those into consideration, because yes, they can do that. In my experience, it's more the application, the intention behind using them post sundown that really causes a problem or makes it a viable solution to help somebody wind down. So I'm going to be super transparent with you guys. A vast majority of my clients, one of the things that they do to help improve their sleep is, one, they have to decrease their stress levels. That's one thing they all do. And a lot of them like to unwind by watching Netflix with their families. And when they do this, and they're disciplined with, hey, we're watching Netflix from this time to this time, and then after it hits blank o'clock, TV's off, we're getting ready for bed. So the quality went through the roof. So it's very subjective. So inherently, what I am saying is, yes, blue light will and can affect your sleep. It can. So just when you're on these types of devices post sundown, be mindful of how close that device is to your face, because the farther it is away, the less that blue light is going to stimulate your eyes. And be aware of your own personal like sensitivities to blue light. If you're super sensitive, hold that boundary.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, have fun.
Yeah.
How much of an impact do the wee glasses have? The wee blue bottom glasses?
Oh gosh. This topic I get very, very passionate about, because blue light blocking glasses in and of themselves, when they're done right, they can be very, very, very helpful.
Mm.
But this type of product has taken the sleep world by storm.
Mm.
And a lot of the blue light blocking glasses out there don't actually block blue light. They're marketed that way. And then you buy them, assuming that it actually is going to do something. And this will have one of two effects. One, the placebo effect will have you believing that this works, and it works. So I guess it works. Then the other case is you buy the glasses, you spend a couple $100 on them because quality pairs aren't cheap, and it doesn't help you at all.
Mm.
So it's one of those devices that when contextually applied, they can be very useful, such as if you're on the computer, let's say like all day, wearing blue light blocking glasses, like let's say for like a couple hours closer to the end of your shift, is going to help with eye fatigue. They're very good with that. Very good with that. But also going back to blue light, your eyes need that to keep your wake cycle running. If blue light begins to fade, even if there's other light spectrums out, you can actually start going into sleep mode way before you actually want to. That was an unintended consequence of wearing these glasses.
Mm.
And the States just found this out, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, okay.
So useful tool if, let's say, Steve, in your case, let's say you like to watch like TV at night and you are sensitive to blue light. This is where a pair of blue light blocking glasses is going to be very beneficial for you.
Mm-hmm.
That would be one of the prime reasons to use them. If you're going to be using screens close to your face late at night, let's say if your job requires it, you just like watching TV or your favorite YouTube on your laptop, that would be a good reason to get them.
Okay.
Other than that, not necessarily as necessary, but if you want them, just make sure you do your research on the company and get a great pair. I have a pair. They're from Felix Gray, and at least in my opinion, they do make some of the best blue light blocking glasses, and you can get them in your prescription if you wanted to. Kind of nice.
Nice. Steve, you've got another question right after that as well, haven't you?
Yep. And you find yourself dropping off in the chair, afternoon, early evening. Should you go with it or fight? So what time are you like nodding off in the chair typically?
Round about 5 o'clock. And it's
okay.
been stronger probably since I've been on this program. It's Ian's fault because he keeps pushing all these extra work on us.
Okay. And when is your typical bedtime?
Probably around about 12 to 1 o'clock.
12 to 1 o'clock. Okay. Well, I can definitely say without a shadow of a doubt, the reason why you're nodding off at around 5 is due to increased sleep pressure. Sleep pressure is that feeling of drowsiness and that drive to actually go to sleep. It occurs naturally, and it's directly based on your physical energy expenditure each day, all of your metabolic activities. So since you're working with Ian and you're working out correct, you're exercising, your body's not used yet to having that increased metabolic output. So it's trying to get you to go to sleep much earlier simply because it's doing a lot more work. So in this particular case, you specifically, 2 options. 1, I would do your best to avoid that very comfy chair at about that time, because if you sit in that chair long enough, the chair is going to win. Your body will win and you will nod off. And that can interfere with your sleep quality that night. That's something we absolutely don't want to have happen. Here's the cool part though. This is where I can actually say a nap would be in your best interests. As long as that nap is within about 6 hours of your bedtime and it's kept to at most 30 minutes, have fun. It'll help you release a lot of that extra sleep pressure that you're feeling, and it's going to help you recover faster those workouts, and it's not going to interfere with your sleep quality that night. It's probably going to increase it as a result.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect.
Cheers, Nick. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
On the naps. Get those naps in. Love it.
Yeah, this is one of the few instances where it's actually worthwhile. One of the few.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay, wait, another one. I am in the States as well. What are my thoughts on melatonin for sleep onset? Well, melatonin, I'm going to just push this one out there, is the only hormone that you can get without a prescription. So I'll put it that way. It is a very powerful hormone. It does a lot inside of your body, but it mainly does control the sleep side of your sleep-wake cycle. In terms of taking melatonin for sleep onset, the only time I do advocate melatonin usage is either if you're jumping time zones and you need to sync up with that time zone quickly within about a 48-hour period. That's when it is very helpful. And if you're attempting to improve sleep onset, both with a lifestyle change, because lifestyle issues are the real reason why so many people struggle with falling asleep. Melatonin, when used in conjunction with a lifestyle change or any supplement for that matter, will help expedite the process and decrease the time that it takes to have high quality sleep onset. So melatonin in general, or just supplements, it's always going to boil down to the intention behind the use. If you're using it as a band-aid to try to solve a problem, you are going to be left frustrated and with worse sleep than not. If you're using it to help solve a problem while you're doing the boring work on the back end necessary to have high quality sleep onset and sleep in general, it will help decrease the time it takes for that to happen. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect. What's your name?
Joseph.
Joseph. Okay. Awesome, Joseph. And in terms of like brands of which ones, any brand that has the lowest possible dose in the tab is going to operate with integrity. Because that's a lot of the brands, they will have you take a 10 milligram tab, which is very common. Your body only secretes 0.25 milligrams naturally to get you to fall asleep. So the less the dose that's in that tablet, the better the brand's going to be for that.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, at least here in the States, and you know this, we like to OD on absolutely everything. The problem with melatonin is the more you take it, your body is going to begin to develop a tolerance to it, and it will stop producing it altogether. And then you are left in an insomniac state, which is not good, because then you need the melatonin to fall asleep, and then you need to wean off of it slowly over a period of months to get your body to actually start doing it again.
That's interesting. It's quite interesting seeing that, because obviously I think a lot of people would look at a melatonin bottle, see the higher dose, and think that's the one for me. That must be the better option.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure where that mentality comes from in terms of like how it is in the States. I'm not sure how it is in Scotland or anywhere else in the world, but here in the States, we're very much instant gratification. More is better. And you see it in the pre-workouts.
Yep.
Like when I first started taking like pre-workout, which was a long time ago, I mean, you were insane if you took a 200 milligram scoop of like pre-workout, whatnot, of caffeine. Yep. Now you see them for like 600, 700 milligrams of caffeine.
Yep.
More is not necessarily better.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And even with the kids too. I mean, kids are given that, like all kids around here take melatonin.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was put on melatonin when I was like 10 to 12, somewhere in there. And it was child's melatonin and it wasn't working. So the doctor then put me on adult melatonin. That worked for 3 days. And then I didn't fall asleep for another 3 days after that.
Jesus.
Yep. It did not work at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's like anything with supplements in any regard, as you say, if you're using them for a specific purpose to aid something when you're already doing, the right practices, it can be useful. But I think taking a more natural approach is always going to be the kind of best way of doing things, isn't it? So,
yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, man. Cool. Well, there's no more questions in the chat, guys. If you've got any other questions, get them in there. I've got a couple that I'm going to ask.
Let's go.
For my own interests, but also kind of to help other people when they watch this on the replay. So, the first one is in terms of kind of getting a routine in place for sleep, like best practices, morning routine, nighttime routine. Like, what's the sort of best thing to do to make sure you're setting yourself up for success for quality sleep?
Ooh, I love this one. Hypothetically, I'm going to treat you all as if you are my client, because this is the first thing that all my clients do, is they develop what I call a pro sleep night routine. It is very simple. You're not going to have a literal Walmart receipt of things that you will do. That's why routines get such a bad rap, is you have to do your journal, you have to have your cold shower, you have to smell this aroma, or you have to read this book, and then you have to do this and you have to do that. And nobody wants to do all that shit.
Yeah.
There's no point to it.
Yeah.
So your night routine, there's a point to every single thing that you're going to do. So with any routine that you will have, there's going to be a trigger that starts the routine. This is called a hard cutoff time when you are developing pro sleep night routine. A hard cutoff time inherently states, hey, my work day is done. My energy giving out is done. It's time to rest, relax, and unwind. You can technically set this at any particular time that you wish. I do recommend that you start with at least an hour before you go to bed. The ideal is 2 hours. The reason why the ideal is 2 hours is it takes your body 2 hours to successfully transfer all of its biological activity from being awake to going to sleep. It takes 2 hours for that to happen. So you want to make sure that you're creating the time and the space for your body to successfully make that transfer. But that said, not everybody's going to be able to do that. So work with what you can do. That's going to paramount everything here. So now that you have established that hard cutoff time, cool. You're going to do a destimulating activity. This is something that you like to do that relaxes you, and it can literally be anything that you want. I gave examples earlier of my clients. They like to watch Netflix with their family. They like to put on their favorite shows. Some of them like to go out and walk the dog. Some of them like to read. A couple of them like to knit. Whatever goes, as long as you find pleasure in it, it relaxes you and you can do it consistently, have fun. Don't overthink it. And then the final component is the most obvious one. It is a consistent bedtime. Pick a time that you need to be in bed by and stick to it.
No, okay.
When you're creating the time and the space for your body to successfully make that transfer, it will. And your sleep quality is going to go through the roof as a result. Specifically, if you are struggling with falling asleep, this is something that you need to do like yesterday. Because I guarantee you that is a part of the problem. Because most sleep onset issues are lifestyle oriented. Most sleep issues that are common nowadays are lifestyle oriented, but that specific stage, that's important. Now, flipping it up on the other side of morning routines, morning routine has one purpose. It is to set you up for success, whatever that might be. And there's two components that are going to be addressed in the morning routine: setting you up personally for success in your day and setting your body up successfully for your day. Every morning routine is going to start with a consistent wake up time. Whatever time you either need to consistently wake at or your body naturally likes to wake at, stick to it. There's a reason why it's waking at that particular time. This is where we're going to go on two different paths. We're going to start with personally. Identify one thing that you personally need to start your day. You are starting your day with you. I'll give you an example. Me starting my day with me and making sure that I'm getting what I need to successfully jump into my day. I like to have peace and quiet and 2 cups of coffee that spans about 45 minutes. That's it. After that, I go. That's all I need. To give you an example, that's all you need. It can be something like that. It could be going out for a walk. It could be getting a morning workout in. If you can do that, that's totally cool. But whatever you personally need as a person to start your day off successfully, do it. And just be consistent with it. Don't overthink it. You do not have to have a list this long of things to do. The simpler, the better. And then biologically, setting your day up for success, 2 things that need to happen. One is sunlight exposure. I talked about this earlier in the training. You will want to get sunlight exposure as soon as you wake up. If you're an early person like me, you will need to wait a little bit till the sun comes up. Just turn on your house lights, turn on the room lights so you're getting that bright light exposure and you're reinforcing to your body, this is when I need to wake up. And as a result, your body will sync to that and your energy levels will be high first thing in the morning. The last thing is your body will need some sort of nourishment. Your body does not care about a weight loss goal. Your body does not care about fasting. It just got done fasting. Intake a specific amount of nutrients that you can be consistent with within 60 minutes of waking. The reason why this one's important is your known food intake timing pattern does directly control your sleep-wake cycle. If you were in a cave in the dark and you were not exposed to light, your body would keep that cycle regulated based off of its known history of food intake timing patterns, when your first meal of the day is and when the last one is. So that first meal of the day, whenever that is, that's important. That is extremely important. The amount of food that you need to take is going to be very subjective to you. I recommend getting some protein in because that is a nutrient that everybody needs, and some dietary fat in because that is a nutrient that everybody needs. Carbohydrates, we could technically, as humans, live without consuming carbohydrates. Whenever I'm doing nutrition style programming for my clients, protein and dietary fat are the absolute non-negotiables. It's also ones that a lot of people don't get in earlier in the day. And it does alter your food intake behavior later in the day because your sleep-wake cycle controls what you're putting into your mouth directly. So when you're anchoring your circadian cycle of this is when I'm waking up with bright light exposure and it knows it's getting some sort of nourishment, it's going to behave much differently, which is more advantageous for just having higher levels of energy, higher levels of health, and having healthy weight management than if you do not do this step. That's your morning routine. That is it.
Love it, man. I love it. Yeah, that's Yeah, you actually answered my second question off that about the whole sunlight thing. Like Dermot's just put it in the chat there, man. There's not much chance of sunlight in this neck of the woods. Like
It happens.
especially going into the next few months in the UK and Ireland.
Yes.
We're not getting sunlight till maybe 9 o'clock if we get sun at all. So yeah, but so bright light's okay though.
Bright light exposure. So I know I'm not as far north as you guys, and I don't get the same amount of dark exposure that you guys do. Also, I live in Vegas. We don't really know what darkness is because we're a 24-hour city. There's always a fucking light on somewhere in Vegas. What I do during our winter months, where trying to pull a gauge, like the sun won't technically rise until like 7 or 8 in the morning, based off of how we do daylight saving time, which is dumb, by the way. And it also sets much earlier. So me being the early bird, that does end up screwing up my sleep cycle a lot. So what I do is when I wake up around about 4 or 5 in the morning, is I turn my house lights on, and they're bright as hell. And I do that intentionally. Do not stare at them, or if you're doing it with some exposure, you don't need to stare at them. But I make sure my eyes get between 5 or 10 minutes of bright light exposure after I wake up. This will apply whether you're using artificial light or natural sunlight as well. That works wonders. And on the backside of that, when it's dark, when it gets darker earlier, you have to put on those house lights again, and then just follow the steps that we outlined earlier with light exposure post like quote sundown. Within about 2 minimum, max about 4 hours before you go to sleep, just start turning those house lights down. So let's say your bedtime in the winter is like 10 p.m. You need bed by 10 p.m. Let's say the sun's going down at like 3 o'clock for some odd reason. Just make sure around like 6, 7 o'clock, you're starting to dim the lights and get more dark exposure in. So your body is again still relying on proper light and dark timing to regulate that cycle. Your sleep quality will be very, very high, and your body will thank you for that.
Yeah. So it's okay to have maybe a light on at night time, like if you want to chill and watch a bit of Netflix at the end, but just maybe like a lamp or something, so it's a wee bit more dim. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, personally, what we do, like my girlfriend and I, when we're watching Netflix to wind down, we'll turn off our main house lights, and we have a very small light over that fireplace that we turn on that's very low, and we can control the brightness of it, and we just turn down the brightness a lot. And that way, one, we're getting way more dark exposure than light exposure, and it works very well because usually we're about ready to pass out well before we're trying to go to sleep. So it works for me. It will work for you guys as well.
Awesome. I like it. Good. So my last question that I've got then, just like, obviously speaking about getting routine with your sleep. So this doesn't affect me, but I know there are a couple of guys in this program that they work shifts. So routine for them is all over the place. So what's the sort of best practice for them? Is it just to try and keep some kind of routine around about what they do, or like what's the kind of best practice for those guys?
Okay, so are we talking about night shift type overnight work shift routine, or are these shifts bouncing around in different times of the day or not?
They bounce. So a good example actually is my wife. She works like right now she's on an early shift pattern, so she's awake at 3:30, and she'll work from 5 till 3. But then not next week because she's off the week after that. She then switches to later shifts, so she doesn't start till 12 in the afternoon, and she's working till 10. And occasionally she'll have to do night shifts as well. So yeah, it's a bit all over the place sleep wise. So
long-term solution is get off those bouncing shifts. That's the long-term solution. Not practical for a lot of people up front. So what I advise members in my community and a couple clients I have who work night shift is that evening routine that you have and that morning routine that you have, stick to those like clockwork, no matter what proverbial time of day that you happen to be waking and going to sleep. And this is really where the magic of routines come into play, is the more you do a routine, your body's going to associate the end outcome of that routine. Like for all you guys who wake up and make a cup of coffee in the morning, if you've drank caffeine longer than 3 months, that coffee's not doing shit to wake you up. It's the ritual, it's the habit, it's the routine that your brain is associated with doing that actually gets you energized. So you can use it to energize you and get you up. You can also use the routine to put you to sleep. That was the whole purpose of that night routine. So as soon as you begin starting the routine, no matter what time, your brain's going to start associating that end outcome, because your brain hates not knowing the future. And if you consistently have done this routine for, let's say, like months or years, it's going to go through its file base and pull out all those known outcomes of, hey, when I turn on Netflix to watch my favorite show, what do I usually do? Oh, I'm going to sleep. And it's going to throw the most commonly occurring outcome as its future. And your brain will literally start taking action on creating that outcome. So literally, it doesn't matter so much of like the actual timing, as long as you're consistent with the routine and you've done it enough, you can apply those routines whenever you need to start applying them to make sure that you're getting quality sleep and you're setting your day up for success.
I love that. Yeah, so obviously, number one best case scenario solution would be to not do the shifts in the first place. But then,
the human body is, as much as it's very resilient, there's only so much it can take before it's literally going to start doing this to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And bouncing around different types of shifts. And I'm not saying like, oh, hey, one day you start at like 8 a.m. and the other day you start like at 10 a.m. I'm like, one day you start at 6 a.m. Like the next week you start at 6 p.m. Your body does not like that type of change. And it'll only take so much before it starts breaking down. And this is usually where people develop like months and years of sleepless nights. This is why a lot of people struggle with depression and weight, because all those go hand in hand. Your body's inherently just at the point where it's like, I've had enough and I'm in self-preservation mode, because we all have this mode still that's been in our heads for tens of thousands, if not hundred thousands of years. It's kept our species alive. And when it's exposed to a high amount of stress, it will literally change all of its happenings and all of its doings to keep you alive. Think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you guys are familiar with that, sleep, security, shelter are at the bottom. Food is on the one on top of that. So if those two aren't being met, if there's stressors in those areas, you're going to sink to that lowest common denominator. Health is on the higher one. Weight loss is even higher than that. And then you can go as far up as you want on that pyramid. But like sleep quality and making sure that your stress levels are low, that's absolutely paramount. Because if that's not there, everything else that you guys are all here for is going to be a very long, arduous process to accomplish. And I don't know about you guys, I'm not a huge fan of taking like 3, 5, 10 years to, drop 10 pounds, drop 20 pounds, live your best life. I like to operate with speed. And when your sleep quality is high, it allows you to operate on speed in a manner of which you probably did not think was possible.
Love it. Love it. Guys, any more questions? Who's got anything they want to ask? We've got I want to be mindful of next time, so let's not if we've got any more questions, let's get them in the new. If not, then we'll just call it at that. I don't know about you guys, but that has been awesome. That's been a lot of big takeaways for me there. There's been a lot to kind of digest. So yeah,
absolutely. That was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think in all fairness, Ian, all the questions that have been asked, I've answered most of my stuff anyway. So it's been pretty good for me in all fairness. Thank you. Cheers, Nick. Thank you very much.
So welcome. Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah. Nick, listen, man. Again, thank you so much for doing this, dude. I really, really, really appreciate it. It's been a lot of big takeaways for me as well. Just a couple of things that I've maybe thought about sleep that maybe were not quite so true. So big takeaways for me as well. So guys, I love like maybe not just now on here, but when I post this in the Facebook group, if you've got any big takeaways that you've taken from this or anything, let us know so that I can then share those with Nick. Anything that you've got, if you want to kind of put a little review of what you thought about it, that way I can share it with Nick, and he can obviously kind of share it with his community as well. So Nick, where can the guys get more of your of what you do? How can they get more in contact with you? Where can they kind of connect with you if they want to come connect?
I'm really easy to find because there's only one of me. So that name at the bottom left hand corner of my speaking tab, Nick Real. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok.
Okay.
Add me, follow me, whatever you want to do. Be grateful for that one. I do have my own private group where we take the topics that we have and we dive deep into them. It's called Sleep Secrets. It's on my main Facebook profile. You want in, I'll get you in there. And for anybody who jumps into that group that either attended this training live or they're watching a replay, what I'm going to do for you is, one, I'm going to give you a free copy of my ebook, Sleep Secrets. And number two, I'm going to give you every single guide that I have on improving your overall quality of sleep. Just for coming. That's it.
Amazing.
Just for giving a shit about your sleep and about yourself.
Dude,
I'm going to give that to you. Just for free.
Thank you so much, dude.
Cheers, thank you.
Guys, I'm actually in the next group. It's brilliant. You jump in and get yourselves over there. Jump in that group. There's some fantastic trainings in there. So really, really good stuff. So Nick, thank you so much again, man. Really, really appreciate you taking the time. It's been fucking awesome. So really, really great. Guys, I'll download this tomorrow morning. I'll edit it and I'll post it up in the group. So if you want to go back and re-watch it, if there's anything you kind of missed or you want to kind of touch up on, then obviously go back in and re-watch it. And obviously reach out to Nick as well if you've got any questions. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to help. So and thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Amazing.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much. Take care. See you in the next one.